Today's gospel reading is brief, but it's very beautiful, and it's a reminder of something that all of us know, that basically, as followers of Jesus Christ, we are challenged to live in the ways of that Jesus, that is the way of love, and reaching out to one another in service, and basically that reaching out is giving of ourselves. It's extending of ourselves. And we are asked to do that in season and out of season. As I reflect on this idea of giving of ourselves, not only is it a call, is it a challenge from God, but the more and more I read about science, about our natural world, about faith, I'm convinced that there is within all of us, that there is this challenge, this call to give of ourselves, to extend ourselves. And this time of pandemic is especially appropriate because there are so many different opportunities. And as in today's reading, we are reminded once again, who's your family? I mean, we were all called to live in relationship with one another. That's what life is all about, isn't it? It's relationships. We're here because of our relationship, God, with one another. We want to affirm one another. We want to be with one another. And we want to give ourselves to one another. Not only is this a dimension of our faith, of Christianity, but the more I read and reflect on this, there's almost something basic in nature, if you will. What I mean by that, I don't have the opportunity to go into great detail, but there's a great deal of writing that we have in terms of science, how trees reach out to one another, especially when trees are in danger because of fire, because of what is happening to the bark of a tree, that somehow underground that other trees, maybe not even of the exact same species, move and reach out to one another. And this is, I'm not making this up, this has been written about. And I think there is something in nature, in animals themselves. Yes, we eat animals in terms of food, but animals also, especially in difficult situations, animals, especially within the same species, really reach out to help one another. It's almost like by nature, that at different levels, below the human level, because we're all connected, and that connectedness is in extending itself to one another. I was thinking about this, and I'd like to share with you just a very short little story from my own personal life. I've mentioned before that I've had a brother and sister who were physically challenged, and my little sister, Helen, she was paralyzed. She was paralyzed from birth, and she couldn't speak normally, and she couldn't walk. It was like an extreme form of cerebral palsy. They didn't call it that at that time. But I always remember this, excuse me, this one particular incident. We had a cat. The cat's name was Tiger. And the little tiger did not like to be petted. And so if you reached out to kind of pet, even gently, Tiger, the paw would come out, and you would feel that paw. He just did not like it. So my mother used to put out my sister. She brought her out to the yard to get some sun, placed her on a grass on a blanket, and my sister used to kind of crawl around a little bit, and out comes Tiger. And Tiger places himself at the end of the blanket, like he wanted to be off by himself. But my sister, and I've seen this a few times, my sister would crawl toward Tiger at the blanket. And it was not merely a question, excuse me, of reaching out to pet. She would grab him and grab him by the tail and drag him. Not once did this animal, did this cat, this small cat, raise his hand. Not once. And of course, because her fingers were twisted and paralyzed, you know, she would do that awkwardly and almost like grab him. And I remember watching this with my mother. Said, there's something that we don't know in the makeup of this cat. This cat would not allow anyone to pet him, but somehow recognizing maybe the vulnerability of my sister, the weakness of my sister, that he would allow her to drag him on that blanket and never once raise a paw. The reason we're mentioning this, it really struck me, and it struck me especially in terms of my reading, and that there is within nature itself, that there is this desire to reach out somehow in help in different ways. Cats will do it in different ways. Branches of trees or roots of trees will do that in different ways. But there is this call within each one of us, each in our own way, to reach out to one another, especially to those who are more vulnerable than ourselves. It's amazing. It's like a pattern that is built not only into us, but I suspect, at least the older I get and the more I read and I think about this, that all of it, nature, we're geared in that direction. And not to do that, not to reach out, is almost something that is against us. That's not the direction that we have been made in, that we have been created, and that we are called to, as we are in today's gospel reading. So, especially in this time where so many of us experience vulnerability, whether it's loneliness, one of the most difficult things, because we are meant to be in relationship with one another. There's these masks that we wear, it's almost against our nature, because we're meant to be in a relationship. And we pray that especially in this time when it's difficult for so many of us in so many different ways, and I'm sure you experience that, each of you in your own particular way, calls us to kind of go beyond that. Maybe, as I've mentioned in times before, a phone call, maybe a word, a gesture, just in some way of reaching out, especially to that more vulnerable person, just to say, I care that you are a person of value. I want to be in contact with you in some small way. I want to let you know that I love you.